Leslye Headland's campaign to get a second season of The Acolyte does not appear to have borne any fruit. The latest rumor claims that a second season is indefinitely on hold. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com. And this latest rumor comes from Scooper WDW Pro here on YouTube. This is what he said in a recent video upload. What I am told by a source who has been correct in the past regarding Lucasfilm with a very high specificity of correctness, aka go back, folks, and listen to us tell you that the Rey movie was going to be happening right before they announced it, and that Daisy Ridley would walk across the stage of the Star Wars Celebration right before it happened. He did indeed get that correct. That was indeed accurate. And this information about season 2 of The Acolyte is coming from this same source, according to Pro. And this is what he said. Said source tells me that Leslye Headland does not, as of right now, have a contract for a season 2 of The Acolyte. Said source tells me that following the finale of season 1 and the results that may have been coming in weeks ahead, I assume he's talking about viewership results, this decision may have been coming in weeks ahead of the finale. There are no current plans to develop a season 2. He did add this caveat. That could change. Kathleen Kennedy can always make that decision as long as she has a contract, which we believe she has a contract up until October of this year, and it may be continued past that, but that's when the current contract would end. But Kathleen Kennedy could go ahead and approve that, but as of right now, we are told there are no plans, no movements. There is nothing in development for a season 2 of The Acolyte. He concluded saying, my source tells me that everything in season 1 indicates that they did plan on doing a season 2, especially with the way the show ends. But as of right now, that continuation of the story seems to be on indefinite hold, indefinite pause. So I think there's a lot of validity to this rumor, given the fact that we have seen Leslye Headland repeatedly claim that a season 2 of the show had not been greenlit. And in some of her most recent comments, she was begging people to try and launch a social media campaign to get this show a second season. She specifically was asked by Collider, shifting gears, one of the most popular questions that I got to ask you from Twitter was, what do fans need to do to ensure that we get a season 2? And this is what Leslye Headland said. Truly, any online support and love you can send the show. It's a little tricky because of the way that the internet works. But if you enjoy the show and you want to see more of the story, any support that you can give the show on social media platforms would be super helpful. So clearly trying to beg people in this Collider interview to get a second season of the show. She continues saying, sending love to the cast too. You've seen what Hayden Christensen went through. He's getting the love now, but give the love now if you enjoyed the performances. Even if you were kind of like whatever on the show, if you enjoyed the performances, get on their social media. Let them know that you love them or that you support them or that the performances were great. She continued saying, encourage your friends to watch the show. A lot of my work has been word of mouth. We were talking about the review bombing, so just tell people don't pay attention to the IMDb score. Yeah. She's talking about word of mouth, and then she's telling people not to pay attention to audience scores that are basically saying the show is garbage. Don't watch it. It's terrible, which is negative word of mouth. But only positive word of mouth is good. Only positive, not negative. If you enjoyed it, tell people. It kind of seems that it's sort of basic, but I think that's what's interesting is that nowadays, if you like a show, you're very rarely going to go online and be like, I like the show. That's absolutely not true. Just look at social media. People say that they like things all the time. Just makes absolutely no sense what she's saying there. Colliders love it, then said, you just watch it and move on. And then Headland reiterated saying, you watch it, you move on. Maybe you mention it to somebody over dinner and be like, oh, I just binged this show. It was fun. Lee Jung-jae is an awesome actor. It usually comes up that way as opposed to going online and saying, I love this show. So if you did love the show, then pivot and be appreciative. I think that's absolutely not true as well. I think more people are likely to say that they like the show online, on social media, or any show. Obviously not The Acolyte. They're not going to say they love the Acolyte because it's terrible. But if they do like a show, they're more likely to say it online, I think, than maybe over dinner or something like that. By the way, I know this is already happening. Even though I'm not online, people have been sending me fun tweets and beautiful artwork and all of the ship comments, and I'm absolutely loving it. I know it's out there, But if you aren't doing it, I would encourage you to do it and support the show. So thank you. As I said, she's previously talked about how the show does not have a second season greenlit yet. She told Nerdist, no, I have no idea. Well, not that I have no idea. I would say there are conversations, and I don't know when that will happen. I don't know when that decision will be made. She also previously had informed Entertainment Weekly. She said, I'll tell you my philosophy on first season. Something that I've noticed is first seasons will end on what should have been the break into Act 2. It feels like everybody's really expecting to get a second season, and I don't feel that's a good idea. I think you should just put everything you can into the first season and give the audience a nice resolution that feels satisfying. This show did not do that at all. Many people, including myself, came away saying, what in the world was the entire purpose of this show besides to degenerate the Jedi? That seems to be the only purpose that Leslye Headland had, was to make it so the Jedi are bad people instead of heroes. But enough nods to mysteries that you would want to see a second season. There were literally no mysteries here that I would be interested in seeing. Obviously, there is the whole Plagueis thing. There is the whole Yoda thing. But who really wants to see that stuff? It's just going to damage the Star Wars lore even further. There's no way that it won't do that if you do get a second season. So those aren't mysteries I'm interested in seeing at all. So it's a little bit of both. You don't want to leave it so wrapped up that, like Obi-Wan or a standalone miniseries, that there's no reason to watch the second season. But I think there's enough stuff in the last few episodes that you would want to have answered. Absolutely not. People were tuning out of the show almost immediately. We have viewership data from Nielsen. The premiere, the 2-episode premiere, only garnered 444 million minutes watched. In the second week, the viewership fell to 370 million minutes. In the show's third week, it was no longer on the Nielsen top 10 charts. It was below this show, King of Collectibles, The Golden Touch, which only garnered 298 million minutes watched. So that means the 4th episode of The Acolyte had less than 298 million minutes watched. We're looking at that it potentially halved minutes watched by its third week. By the 4th episode, this show could have had less than 222 million minutes watched. We don't know what that number is because it's not on the chart, but just absolutely terrible here. Potentially in it could happen to be a write-off. It could be something similar to Willow. Remember, Willow was actually part of this massive, like, $2 billion write-off that the Walt Disney Company took for a lot of its Disney Plus shows, where they aired the show and then they almost immediately took it off, did not renew it, and it wasn't on Disney Plus anymore. I don't think they're going to do that with The Acolyte, given the fact that it is a Star Wars show. They can't do that. I think that is a massive negative signal to investors, showing how weak the company is, how damaged the Star Wars brand is of their own doing. So I don't think that they will be doing that. Plus, it also signals that people don't actually like the woke ideology that they're pushing and that Leslye Headland pushed. So I don't think that they'll be doing that. I think they'll keep it up, but it's only to kind of save face. And even if you want to look at the most recent Nielsen data here, its 4th week, it did not show up either in its 4th week. So the 5th episode did not show up either. And that was the episode where you had the big lightsaber fight. So even then, it didn't show up, where you had Chimere basically slaughtering all of the Jedi on, I don't even remember what planet that was that the Wookiee was on. But you can see it was less than 319 million minutes watched. Again, I would assume, given the trend, it probably went down. It was probably nowhere even close to that 300 million minutes watched mark. But that's why I believe this rumor from Pro. All the data points to the fact that this show is not getting greenlit. It was a disaster. People didn't like it. Even Leslye Headland is admitting, trying to tell people not to look at the IMDb scores because they are so bad. Trying to say that it is review bombing rather than actual audience reaction being negative to the show. But let me know what you guys make of this. What do you make of this rumor that a second season has been indefinitely put on hold and might not happen ever? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, but to always speak the truth.